Are the wheels coming off? Or was this 2-2 draw against Aston Villa actually a solid result in a tough away fixture? You could look at this match from two different angles. On one hand, the Reds had more than enough chances to take all 3 points. Jota completely mishit his shot in a one-on-one with the keeper, and Darwin Nunez somehow missed an open net. At this point, these wasted chances are becoming a frustratingly familiar sight for Liverpool fans. But let's not ignore the other side of the story. Aston Villa had their fair share of opportunities, especially in the closing stages of the game, where Liverpool looked vulnerable. So, what really happened? Did Arne Slot escape with a lucky draw, or did the Reds actually deserve the win? That's exactly what we're here to break down today. From Liverpool's ongoing struggles out of possession to how Slot's signature tactics ultimately salvaged a point, we'll cover it all. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more match breakdowns. Now, let's get into it. As always, we start with the lineup, which featured a somewhat expected but still surprising change. Alisson was back between the posts, with Andrew Robertson, Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate, and Trent Alexander-Arnold forming the backline. The midfield trio remained unchanged, with Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, and Dominic Szoboszlai controlling the centre of the park. But up front, there was a surprise as Curtis Jones got the nod ahead of Luis Diaz, joining Diogo Jota and Mo Salah in attack. In the opening 5 to 10 minutes, Arne Slot's Reds were in almost complete control, largely due to the aggressive press applied when Aston Villa attempted to build out from the back. Here you can see Liverpool pressing in a man-to-man fashion, with Jota immediately closing down Villa's keeper. If the ball was played out wide, the team looked to overload that area, with the fullbacks also stepping up to join the press. This intensity paid off early as Trent's advanced positioning allowed him to win the ball back high up the pitch, leading to a chance for Jota. Unfortunately, his free header sailed off target, letting Villa off the hook. Fortunately, Diogo Jota made up for his earlier miss. While Villa's right back was at fault for the goal they conceded, credit has to go to Jota for smartly blocking the passing lane and capitalising on the mistake. His quick decision to square the ball to Salah for an easy tap-in was just as important. He could have gone for goal himself, but he made the right call. However, what he should be criticised for is the chance he missed just a minute after Villa's equaliser. That was a huge moment. Had he buried that opportunity, it would have been a gut punch for Villa, stopping their momentum before it even built up. And who knows, maybe their second goal never happens if Liverpool had regained the lead right then and there. Speaking of Villa's second goal, the build-up exposed some of the same weaknesses we've seen earlier this season. Liverpool's pressing was highly effective early on, especially when Villa played out from goal kicks. But let's be real, it's not sustainable nor even logical to press that high and with that much intensity for a full 90 minutes. And that's exactly where the cracks start to show. Once we drop into a mid-block, our pressing loses its bite. The intensity fades, the players stop applying enough pressure on the ball carrier, and suddenly the opposition has time and space to pick their passes. Let's take a closer look at exactly how it unfolded. Here you can see Aston Villa setting up in a double box midfield. They have two centre-backs flanked by their usual double pivot, but crucially, both attacking midfielders drop deeper to receive the ball. Notice how their positioning is staggered rather than flat. This small detail makes a big difference. By doing this, Villa players avoid clogging their own passing lanes, while simultaneously giving their centre-backs more passing options. This setup also allows them to overload the central areas, forcing Liverpool's wide players to tuck inside. As a result, Villa's fullbacks become natural outlets when progression through the middle isn't possible. Now tactically, Villa had already set themselves up well for smooth ball progression. But Liverpool's passive pressing made things even easier for them. Look at the gap between our pressing players and Villa's backline. The lack of pressure gave Villa's defenders all the time in the world on the ball, and worse, it allowed their number 10s to manipulate our midfielders, dragging them out of position and opening even more space. Here you can see Gravenberch tracking Marco Asensio, who drifts wide and ends up dragging our Dutchman out of position. This movement creates a gap in midfield, allowing Watkins to drop deep and link up play without immediate pressure. This wasn't just a one-off sequence, it was a recurring pattern throughout the game, and eventually it played a direct role in Villa's second goal. These issues of our pivot players getting dragged out of position and opponents exploiting the space left behind were a problem early in the season. If you think back to our games against Chelsea, Wolves away, and Arsenal, you'll remember how teams used similar tactics to pull us apart. Recently though, especially with Cody Gakpo cementing his place in the starting 11, these problems have become far less noticeable. That's because when we defend in a mid-block, Gakpo often drops deeper to help cover those spaces in central areas. This allows Gravenberch and McAllister to track their men without worrying about leaving massive gaps behind them. But against Wolves and Aston Villa, with Gakpo unavailable, those same weaknesses reappeared. So what do you think? Does this prove that Gakpo's impact goes far beyond just goals and assists? Was he actually the key to masking our midfield vulnerabilities out of possession? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now, as we mentioned earlier, this game really should have been put to bed in the first half. But a combination of missed chances and a more passive approach after going 1-0 up made things much harder than they needed to be. Our attacks lost their sharpness, and instead of controlling possession like we've done in the past, we often looked rushed and impatient on the ball. The second half was always going to be a challenge, with Villa leading and our out-of-possession struggles continuing. But despite that, our attacks carried much more threat, especially through the rest attack approach we always talk about on this channel. Now, if you're wondering what rest attack means and why it has become such a lethal weapon for Arne Slot's Reds, make sure to check out the video we recently dropped breaking it all down. But for now, let's show you exactly how it saved us in this game. Here's the moment we forced a deep turnover after a Villa attack. Take a look at Salah's positioning. He's miles up the pitch, not even thinking about tracking back. And that's the key, guys. You want your most dangerous players as close to the opponent's goal as possible at all times. That's exactly how Slot is using rest attack, preparing for the offensive transition by keeping Salah high when we're defending, ready to pounce the moment we win the ball back. And once again, it worked to perfection. With just 2 passes after regaining possession, Salah found himself in a deadly 1-versus-1 situation. He sent Lucas Digne to the shops before laying it off to Trent for the equaliser. A textbook example of rest attack in action. Later in the game, Salah found himself in a nearly identical situation, this time thanks to a brilliant long ball from Alisson. But just when it looked like another goal was on the cards, Darwin Nunez made a poor pass after some questionable decision-making, completely wasting the opportunity. And that brings us to Darwin. Yes, Jota missed a one-on-one earlier in the game, but with him, you always feel like he'll bury the next chance that comes his way. Darwin, on the other hand, he had an open net right in front of him, and it's far from the first time this has happened. With Nunez, you never know what you're going to get. One game, he's scoring a match-winning brace like he did against Brentford. The next, he's missing absolute sitters. Even Arne Slot seemed frustrated after the match, openly addressing the wasted open net chance, saying that one player should be feeling down. It doesn't take a genius to figure out who he meant. 3 years in, and Darwin still hasn't found his shooting boots. And with Liverpool transitioning to a more controlled, less chaotic style of play, maybe it's time to cash in on him this summer. What do you think? Would selling him be the right move? Let us know in the comments. So there you have it, guys, a game that should have been wrapped up in the first half but instead turned into another frustrating night of missed chances and defensive lapses. While there were positives like our rest attack still proving deadly and the team creating plenty of opportunities, the same old problems continue to haunt us. Wastefulness in front of goal, shaky moments out of possession, and questions over certain players' consistency. These are all issues that need sorting if we want to keep pushing for the title. But what do you think? Was this a decent point in a tough away game? Or did we throw away 2 crucial points? And what about Darwin? Should Liverpool stick with him, or is it time to move on? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the analysis, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.